The Trump administration pushing to repeal and replace Obamacare, but opposition from both sides of the aisle delaying the timeline. Now a proposal from Texas Senator Ted Cruz is gaining support on the Hill. The legislation, called the, quote, Consumer Freedom Amendment, would allow insurance companies to offer bare-bones policies that do not meet Affordable Care Act standards. Senator Cruz defended his plan at a town hall meeting yesterday in Texas. Listen.
I'm doing everything I can to lead the fight to repeal Obamacare and to give people choice. Patients are in a better position to decide what coverage they want and what coverage they don't, rather than have Washington say what you got to buy.
Joining me right now is former Health and Human Services Secretary and former Utah Governor Mike Leavitt. Secretary, good to have you on the program. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning, Maria.
Let's walk through Senator Ted Cruz's proposal. Get your take on this. What do you make of the senator's proposal here as it relates to what he wants changed in terms of the states?
I think the basic message is less government, less spending, and what government we do have, let's have happen at the state level as opposed to the federal level. I think there's also a call here to allow consumers to have more control over their health care. And we've known for a long time that if you give well-informed consumers information, they'll make better choices about their own care than the government will. So
the Cruz plan aims to roll back the requirement that boosts coverage for individual plans, but also increase the cost. Under Obamacare's Affordable Care Act, there was a real cost to that, and they're trying to roll back these taxes. But 9 GOP senators have expressed opposition to the overall Senate plan after the CBO analysis last week found that Mitch McConnell's draft would result in 22 people losing health insurance, but we know that's only because they have chosen not to take on the insurance. Isn't that right, sir?
Well, Senator Cruz's plan, as I understand it, would basically require that a state have at least one plan that meets the original federal standards, but then once there's one plan in the market, they could have other plans that do not. This is a kind of compromise, I think, he's posing between the two sides.
Talk to us about the expansion of Medicaid over the years. I mean, you know this better than most. We've seen the Medicaid entitlement program encompass many more people than it was intended, and that's one of the issues why we're seeing such debate. There's one portion of the GOP that says, look, we don't want bigger government. We don't want Medicaid, which is intended for the poor, to be having services to working age, working males, but that's exactly what's happened. Can you characterize what has taken place in Medicaid?
Maria, you've hit the nail on the head. There's a disagreement about what the purpose of Medicaid is. There are those who believe that Medicaid was designed and should remain a program that assists those who have economic hardship. And then there are those who believe this is a program that we can use to expand government helping consumers acquire health care. That's the basic ideologic divide behind the expansion of Medicaid. There's very few people I know, none really, that I'm aware of, that would say the United States of America doesn't need to be involved in helping people in economic need. But there are a lot of people who believe that it's wrong to make Medicaid the vehicle by which we expand government-provided care to the average American.
Right, which is where the fight comes in and the politics come in, because when you see 22 million people without health care, you say, oh, well, you know, this is a mean plan and this is, you know, shutting out the people who need it most. It's actually not true, because the Medicaid program has expanded so much that it actually encompasses people that do not need this kind of aid. That's the issue.
There is a widely held aspiration in our country, Republican and Democrat, for people to have access to an affordable insurance policy. The question continues to come, what's the role of government in that process? Do we have the government operating the system, or do we have that organizing the system?
Yeah.
And the ideologic divide falls along those lines.
I want to ask you about Amazon and the jobs they're going to create in Utah in a second, but let me ask you this and stay on health care for one more moment. Do you think they're going to get this done? I mean, what does your gut tell you in terms of the policy that we're expecting out of this administration, a repeal and replace followed by tax reform?
I believe that ultimately they will pass a bill, and no matter what the bill is, they'll refer to it as repeal and replace. We just don't know at this point what the definition of repeal will be and what the definition of replace will be. They have, for so many years now, made this the benchmark of a Republican administration. I think there's an imperative that they do. We have an ongoing negotiation. I think there's a backstop here of probably the 30th of September when the reconciliation vehicle that they're currently using to do it would expire. But I think Mitch McConnell knows what his members need and want, and he's in the process of trying to assemble 50 votes.
All right. It's nice to see your optimism there. We'll see about that. We know how important it is, certainly to our audience and to the economy. We just got a jobs number out, once again, below expectations. So we're looking at a real crawl when it comes to growth here. Meanwhile, you've got firms like Amazon.com, online retail giant Amazon, creating 1,500 full-time jobs at its first Utah fulfillment center in Salt Lake City. Hourly associates will receive a competitive salary and benefits package, according to the company. Secretary, as a former Utah governor, what do you think this Amazon fulfillment centers means for your state?
Well, it's very good news, of course, for Utahns, and I think it's not only Amazon, but there is a quite dramatic shift in the economy that's occurred over the last 2 decades. Utah has become a tech hub. It's well known for its quality of life, and people like living here, and it's right at the crossroads of the American West. So there are a lot of reasons that a company like Amazon and others would choose to locate in Utah.
Yeah, obviously. So we'll be watching that. Good news for Utah. Secretary, good to see you, sir. Thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
We appreciate your insight. Secretary Mike Leavitt joining us there.